Jastin? Is it Jastin's turn?
I think it is me.
All right. Jastin, A through Z.
L is in Lorax.
So specific.
Jess, we kind of vaguely talked about new shit beforehand. You could have like tossed me a bone or something. Like, what the fuck does it have to do with anything? Actually, you know what? I can spin this. The Olympics did end recently. And next year, it will be in LA. So as the Olympic closing ceremonies tend to do, they do this thing where they're like, oh, hey, look, here's some shit from the host city. And then look, here's some shit from the city coming up. And if you follow me on social media, you probably saw me make this joke, but I stand behind it. Why the fuck did we get more Red Hot Chili Peppers? Anthony Kiedis in his own biography admitted to statutory raping a child. So why the fuck do we put them on things? Because, you know, why do we want to see people that fuck 14-year-olds as adults? Why do we want that? Because that's what I get every time you put the Red Hot Chili Peppers on something. I get that they have just every other song they've ever written is about the state of California. But get the fuck off it. He's fucked a child. So let's just stop that while we're at it. And what they should have done is they should have gotten another L for you, Jastin, LL Cool J, to sing Going Back to Cali. Because that's fucking perfect. Because it's not the first time the Olympics have been there. And it's a better song. And as far as I know, LL Cool J isn't a sexual predator.
Yeah, that would have worked for me.
Yeah.
I'm going back to Cali.
Yeah. In weird news, performer Dr. Dre, who also did perform at the Olympics with Snoop Dogg, he's actually going to be trying to actually compete at the Olympics in 2028.
Really?
Dr. Dre in middle school took up archery and got back into it, and he's actually going to try to qualify for the U.S. archery team for those Olympics.
Awesome.
That's cool.
He'll be up there with, I want to say Gina Davis. She was either was close to being an Olympic athlete. It was in archery or shooting. One of those two. I don't remember. But yeah, she was up there.
That's cool.
So, haha, Jastin, I beat you in your fucking L. Fucking asshole.
I just really wanted to say Lorax.
Why? What the fuck do you want to say Lorax?
I don't know. It just came up. You know how my head is.
What do you mean it just came up?
It just loaded up in my head.
You just act like you go through fits of just Dr. Seussing. Like, G is in green eggs and ham. C for Cat in the Hat. M for Max the dog from the Grinch movie.
H for Hop on Pop.
Oh, Jastin, you son of a bitch. In other news, though, Jenna Rollins, actress that played the older Rachel McAdams from The Notebook, she passed away today.
She was probably in her 80s. 90s. Like,
she was 94. I don't know.
94. Okay.
I know there's probably more things we can talk about, but we got to talk about Borderlands. And that's just kind of drained my soul. Any spark of joy or happiness I may have to talk about and view cinema is just leaving my body the closer we get to actually having to talk about that movie. So, fuck. I guess we just got to bite the bullet, right? We just got to do it. We just got to do the Borderlands.
Rip the Band-Aid.
It'll be fine. It was a movie. It was cinema. We got it. We got this. We're cinema slayers.
Was it, Jastin? Was it actually any of those things? Or was it just an incoherent, unfunny mess of shit happening on a fucking screen?
Oh. Yeah, you drop a hard bargain.
I'm just kidding, guys. I'm going to give this a positive score if you can't tell. Totally going to be a positive score. I am not lying to you right now. Positive score. Promise. I promise it will be a positive score. Promise.
Okay. I feel like there's a catch, but I'm intrigued.
Nope. No catches. Positive score. Promise.
Okay.
Promise.
Okay.
Somebody will listen to me.
Nobody knows anything but you.
All right. Are you ready? Yep. Come on.
Cinema Slayers.
Hey, Cinefans, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. I'm Sterling, and as always, I'm joined by Heather and Jastin. And tonight we're going to talk about what we liked, didn't like, and everything in between with the thing, Borderlands. If we have time, because we've done this a lot, we were like, oh, we're going to do 2 movies, and we don't. If we have time, we're also going to talk about Cuckoo. Maybe if we don't do this, we'll maybe tag it on to another episode. I'm just saying, that's the plan. But I've lied to you a few times and said we're doing 2 movies, and we didn't. So we are talking about Borderlands and hopefully talking about Cuckoo. With time codes in the description, allowing you to jump around if you so require for both movies. And if I didn't say, we're going to talk about what we didn't like about Borderlands. And I have to go first because I actually have a PSA. I've got a public service announcement to do with this. That I have to get this off my chest. It's been a burden upon my soul ever since I watched this movie. I was really harsh about the Super Mario Brothers, wasn't I?
Yeah, you were.
I was real harsh about that shit. I'm sorry, Super Mario Brothers, you don't suck. I was really harsh about that movie Tarot, wasn't I? I mean, don't get me wrong, that movie's still bad, but you know, like looking back on it, it's not as bad as I thought it was. Like, this has to be the worst movie I've seen all year. Like, has to be. Not even close. Like, has to be. Right? Like, not even close. Like, I don't even remember all the bad shit we've seen this year. Like, Tarot was not this bad. Like, I can at least say about Tarot that if you had never seen a horror movie before, and this was your introduction to a horror movie, you might say it was a horror movie. Statistically speaking, Borderlands has to be somebody's first movie. And they're going to hate movies afterwards. They're going to be like, this is what people talk about when they talk about movies. It's this shit. If you go back in time and listen to our Showgirls episode, I talk about, while Showgirls is meant to be a movie that is sexy, it is so unsexy that I was afraid that I'd never get turned on again when I watched it. For this being a comedy, like an action video game comedy, This movie is so unfunny. I'm afraid I will never laugh again. This movie is just, it's the worst. It is. This is the shining example of like, all right, you guys remember when we talked about Madam Web and how that was like a harken back to like the early 2000s comic book movie. This is a harken back to the 1990s, 2000 video game adaptations. Oh, hey guys, let's just throw a bunch of bullshit on a fucking screen and just say it's a video game movie. I have not played a second of a Borderlands game, so I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about that series. I will say this now, and I want to look into the camera. And if you're just listening to this in audio, just listen to the seriousness in my voice. I will never fucking play these games, ever. If it has just anything in common with these movies, I'm talking about a character name, a location, the name of something in common with this movie, I will never fucking play a second of a Borderland game for the rest of my life. They could hold a gun to my fucking head and say, you have to play a second of a Borderland game. You have to just turn the system on knowing that Borderlands is on this system. And I will pull that fucking trigger for them.
Man, tell them how you really feel.
What the fuck was this movie? This is just the most tangential of things. Like, this is one of the most smallest things of something I can bitch about with this movie. What the fuck is it with movies in the destination planet in a sci-fi movie? I don't know. Have to be called Pandora. What the fuck is that shit? Like, I know this doesn't resonate that much with you, Heather, because you haven't watched any of the Avatar movies. But yeah, what is that? Is that a trope that we're going to have to deal with now in sci-fi? The planet that everybody wants to steal shit from is called Pandora. Is that our existence? Is that the world now? Also, what was that last Spider-Man movie, No Way Home?
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets 2 more points added to it now. Just because, I thought, I don't know what I was thinking when I watched that movie, because I could have watched this. Just by comparison, so many movies look better than this movie. Like, after watching it, like, I said a lot of bad shit about Madam Web. It didn't have a good one, but it had, I don't know, a story, I guess. Like, this had the story of a 1982 like Commodore game. Like, this had the story of Pong. Like, if you were to make a Tetris movie and go, all right, give me the storyline of Tetris, it'd be more intriguing than whatever the fuck this was. Fuck this movie. Jastin, what you got?
Well, man, you took all the good lines, man. It's what happened,
dude,
man?
I gave you
Eli
so
Roth
much
has
shit.
done good movies.
I gave you so much shit for liking Super Mario Brothers. I apologize, sir.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And you were really ripping into me, man. I had my Mario hat on and everything.
Dude, I wish I could go back in time. I'd at least dress up like Wario or something. Or put like just at least a red tie on. Be Donkey Kong, something.
I'm going to hold you to that for the next one. Just dress as Donkey Kong for the next one, which would be butt naked except for the red Donkey Kong tie.
Well, I'm glad that
But
video is
anyway.
only from here up.
Yeah.
I don't get in trouble for that.
Yeah, I guess so. But anyway, what happened, guys? Like when you first said this is the worst movie that you've seen all year, I was like, well, is it though? And, you know, I started thinking about Madam Web and Big Night Swim and like just some of the ones that we really just thought were bad. And sometimes it's really just certain characteristics that make a movie worse than some of the other worst movie candidates. And this one, man, I feel like it's almost worse because of who's in it and who directed it. Like Eli Roth has done some good movies. What happened here?
You liked his last movie. You liked Big Thanksgiving.
Yeah. And what else, man? Like this dude, he did some of the Grindhouse movies, right? Did he do Inglourious Bastards? Was that him?
No, well, he's in it. He's in Inglourious Bastards, but Quentin Tarantino directed that one.
Oh yeah, duh.
But he did the Hostel movie. He did this movie called Green Inferno. I mean, he's done some good shit.
Yeah, like I know he has. So what happened here? And if I told you that, hey, we're going to watch a movie with this cast, and I said Kate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, Jamie Lee Curtis, you'd probably think the movie's going to be all right. I mean, if you hear that, you probably think, oh, Kevin Hart. So yeah, I'm going to laugh. I'm going to get some laughs. Kate Blanchett's a great actress. I'm going to get some good acting. Jack Black and Kevin Hart, we've seen them on projects before. And those are, and you know how funny those two can be on the same project.
And we've seen Jamie Lee Curtis do some action and some comedy. We've seen that from her.
Yeah.
She acted like Lindsay Lohan in Freaky Friday.
So like, you hear that, you hear some of those names, you hear who's directing it, and you think, oh, it's not going to be that bad. And for it to wind up being this is almost astounding. Like it's just, it's almost amazing. It's an amazing feat that you could have this level of talent and produce this level of movie. Like this is just very disappointing given the caliber of talent that is in the film. And I mean, we've seen a lot of films that have these big cast or a really good cast and it's a bad movie. But honestly, this could potentially be just one of the worst movies with the most like potentially good cast that I've seen in a long time. Like, you know, at least Night Swim. I mean, it was just a bunch of people, you know, it was a bunch of people. Some we kind of know, but there was no Kate Blanchett. There was no Kevin Hart or Jack Black or Jamie Lee Curtis in that movie. Taro. We had what? We had Jacob Batalon. You know, he's done some good stuff in the Spider-Man movies. But again, we didn't have no Kate Blanchett. We didn't have no Kevin Hart. We didn't have Jack Black. So yeah, those movies are bad, but I mean, nobody like this was in those movies. How is this movie as bad or worse with this cast, with this director? I just fail to understand. And then, like, when you're watching the movie, it's not even like, oh, the acting was good. It was just the story that let us down. Or, sometimes we get on here and it's like, well, the acting was great, but the story just let everybody down. Or, man, these actors always show up, and they were showing up here doing their best, and the script just wouldn't let them have anything. I can't even use that excuse, because there are literally times where I was watching this going, he or she is dialing it in. Like, it is abundantly clear and abundantly apparent that it felt like they all knew what this was. And they all agreed upon it. And they all knew. It was almost like everybody agreed that they were just not going to try very hard. Like, that's what it felt like. That's honestly what it felt like. And then you had some people where it just felt like they were just trying very hard to fail. Like, it almost just felt like I was watching some acting going, this is not a believable performance at all. I don't believe an ounce of what I'm seeing. And I haven't felt like that in a long time. So I don't know, Sterling, maybe you are right. I mean, maybe this is the worst movie of the year. Maybe it is, because very seldom do I feel like that watching the acting performances. And then the story is just every cliche you have seen in the world. I mean, it's mind-blowingly predictable. I was barely paying attention and I knew what was going to happen. I knew where everything was going. I knew exactly what it was going to be. I knew whose mom sent what to do what to have what happen. And I knew and then you just knew who was going to be the one to be special and who was not going to be special. And you knew the red herring the moment. I mean, damn near she could have just been wearing a shirt that said red herring on it. Like, I mean, it just, God, this was
when
just, go ahead.
And it also led to one of the worst lines in this movie. I'm going to say the line out of context just because I have to say this line. A character in this movie goes, I remember now, your mom gave you to me so I would take you away from this planet. I'm like, oh, that's the line. That's the line. And it was delivered like that. Like that was how the actor delivered that line. Oh, I remember now. Your mom gave you to me to get you off of this planet. Oh, okay.
I remember. Like when you leave, that's like forgetting you forgot your wallet, or, oh man, I left my coupon on the couch and here I am at the store. I mean, how could, I mean, it was said so matter of fact. But what she was talking about was so important.
Especially when it really is like the equivalent of going, I remember now, your mom said you were the prophetic being of this prophecy. And that's why she wanted you to get away from this. And I forgot and totally thought it was this other character this whole time. Until right now, I remember exactly that it was you the whole time. Okay. Cool story, bro.
Yeah, I guess you can forget things, but damn, woman. But yeah, like, this just, it really is just mind-blowing how much of a failure it is given who's involved. And it's also just the types of failures that you're witnessing. is even uncharacteristic. Like, it has failures that are, and this is going to sound weird, but it makes perfect sense. There are failures in here that are uncharacteristic of bad movies. Like, it's like on that level. And I don't really think there's anything more I want to say than that. So yeah, it's bad, ladies and gentlemen. It's bad.
Just so you guys know, after you're done, Heather, I've got a list of our worst movies from this year and a few from last year. And we'll just go through the list to see which is worse, Borderlands or those movies. It'll be after you. You'll be able to go right now, Heather, but I've got a list to put together.
Gotcha. I mean, actually, and I wish I remembered the quote full on, but my favorite was when a character said something along the lines of, like, I'll let you live if you let these people go. I don't remember what she said. It was some like weird line that was supposed to be this heroic, like badass moment. And she's like, you know, I'll let you live. That is if you let these people go, or something like really, I really wish I remember the way it was worded, but I might try to find it. But yeah, that was the line for me that I was like, this was supposed to be a big moment and it was just really bad. But anyways, yeah, all of that to say, I mean, when it comes down to it, I've just never seen a movie that thought it was so cool. Like, this movie, like, genuinely thought that it was a really cool movie. And I think that's the problem with it. Like, it's one of those where we've seen bad, like, game adaptations of, or movie adaptations of games, but some of them are at least still fun, even if they're terrible. Like, it's the fun terrible. This is one of those where it's like, you can't, like, they're taking themselves too seriously in this entire movie. And that's why also, like, nothing comes across funny that's supposed to be funny. Nothing comes across genuine if it's supposed to be genuine. Like, it's just there. And I don't know anything about the game either. So I'm like, I don't know if these lines of dialogue were taken directly from the game or if they were just made up for this movie. But either way, I'm just a little bit let down by the whole dialogue of the entire movie. And yeah, it's like, also, like, if this was your first time seeing any of these actors in anything, you'd be like, why are they famous actors? Like, which is a really bad, like, that's a disservice to the talent of this movie. And that's the biggest, like, I guess, disappointment, is just, there is a crazy amount of talent that you have in this film. At least 3 Oscars between people in this movie. And this is what we got. And I am confused by that. I've also never really in a different movie had to say, Jack Black was the least funny thing about a movie. This will be a first time that I'd have to say that about dear Jack Black, who I love. He is the least funny thing about this movie. And honestly, like, I think the absolutely most tolerable thing in the entire movie is actually Kevin Hart. He is the most tolerable character in the entire movie. But it's just one of those where the tone that they try to set for you when the movie starts is very like, they're trying to go with like a mysterious but like inspirational something, and then it just goes directly into this super like jarring scene where there's a lot of like crazy action going on, and then a character says a really stupid line, and then it just doesn't stop from there. Like, it keeps getting worse from there. And then you think, okay, well, when we get to the scenes with the more seasoned actors, it'll get better. It doesn't. It doesn't. And I'm just confused why, if this was a movie that needed to be made because this game is such a big deal, why make it this movie? Like, that's my thing with it. And again, I have no stake in anything regarding it because I hadn't even heard of Borderlands before this movie was coming out. So I have nothing to go off of here, but I don't blame you, Sterling, for your just complete, like, you would rather die than play the game. Like, I understand why you're saying that. And then they also just like weirdly, I don't know. It's a lot of dialogue problems. They focus on like weird moments that they want to emphasize, but they're emphasizing it for no reason. And I'll give examples, but I'm just like, I don't get it. Like, it's just very odd to me. But yeah, it's not a good movie. The action isn't, you could tell the moments when they were like, this is going to be our cool moment in this action sequence. And then you're like, we have seen that before, also done in a better way. Like, it's just not, characters were phoning it in. Actors were phoning it in, I guess I should say. Characters were not, it was hard to care about any character, which is unfortunate. Like, I didn't care what was going to happen to any of them. I had no emotional investment in any of them. And I get easily invested in a lot of fictional characters, and I just didn't care about any of them. So yeah, I don't understand. Like, it's just a bad script. It's just, I've never seen a movie that was trying so hard to be a very cool, relevant movie that failed as hard as this one did. And that's saying something because we've seen that a lot. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a really rough watch.
So while you guys were talking, I actually continued to add to our list of bad movies into last year too. I just kept going until like it got back to this. So we're going to start with this. These first few are this year, okay? All right, so what's worse, Borderlands or Tarot?
Borderlands.
Border.
What's worse, Borderlands or Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire?
Borderlands.
Border.
What's worse, Borderlands or Ghostbusters Frozen Empire?
Definitely Borderlands.
Border.
This one might be surprisingly tough. I forgot about this movie. What's worse, Borderlands or Argyle?
Ooh, that's rough. But honestly, there was at least one or two slightly amusing moments in that one. So Borderlands is worse for me.
Yeah, I think I got to go Border. I think the acting was still better in that, in Argyle.
And
somehow
to end this year, at least so far, what was worse, Borderlands or Night Swim?
Borderlands.
Yeah, I got to go with Border.
All right. So so 2004 so far, at least of the movies we have watched, or at least talked about on the podcast, I should say, Borderlands is the worst movie so far. All right. Going into 2023 a little bit. What was worse, Borderlands or Five Nights at Freddy's?
Borderlands.
Yeah, Border.
I think this right here might be the toughest of all. What was worse, Borderlands or The Exorcist Believer?
Ooh.
That got real difficult real fast, didn't it?
That movie was bad.
Honestly, I still think the acting was better in Exorcist, so Borderlands.
Shoot, you might be right. The two kids.
But that's close, though. That's real tough.
I mean, Leslie Odom Jr.
Right.
Leslie Odom Jr. wasn't bad, at least in Believer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, it's like one gets a point and the other just still gets a none.
Yeah, because it's like the problem with The Exorcist Believer is actually just the entire story of it, not the entire story plus the entire acting.
I guess that's true. So, yeah, I guess Borderlands wins. It's close, but I think Border still has less redeemable qualities.
All right, here's another colossal fight of the shitty movie juggernauts. Borderlands or The Nun 2?
Does Borderlands have any scene
That one's really tough.
that's just as cool? That's as cool as that one scene in The Nun with the magazine pages flipping. And is
You
there
know what?
any
That's
cool
fair.
scene in Borderlands?
And I liked the demon goat guy. I at least liked the design of that thing.
Yeah.
You know, the evil goat.
Yeah. And that one, like, the entire story wasn't great. There were elements of it that were all right, though. Acting, not going to say the same on that end for that movie. But you're right. Like, it at least had some cooler things about it. There wasn't anything in Borderlands I could be like, that looked cool. Or like that
Right.
set piece was
All
cool.
right, I kind of disagree with you. There is one thing in Borderlands that does look cool. That's Gina Gershon.
Okay. That's fair. That is, yeah, that's fair. I can't argue that.
I mean, I'm just saying you can't say nothing in Borderlands didn't look cool because Gina Gershon always looks cool.
Yeah. The hoots were
Yeah.
out.
And I guess, okay, you know what? I'll retract that. Nothing set piece scenery wise looked that cool. How about that?
Oh no, I mean, it is Gina Gershon. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, I mean, and just to kind of like rapid fire these last ones, I mean, Last Voyage of the Demeter. I mean, Borderlands is still worse. Like, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Borderlands is worse. Pooh, Blood, and Honey. Borderlands is still worse. Because even with all the shittiness that was Pooh, Blood, and Honey, you get to at least make the argument of the concept is better.
Who
And
had
I
a
feel
better
like-
opening scene?
That's true. And that's very true. But I also feel like Pooh, Blood, and Honey, I think knows it's not good.
Oh, yeah.
And that is also a big difference. This movie doesn't know it's not good.
Also, the talent. Look at the disparity of talent on Borderlands versus Pooh. I mean, God.
Pooh, Blood, and Honey was like hey, you want to be in a movie? I'll
Yeah.
buy you lunch. Like, this has Academy Award people in it. Like, it's absurd. And then you've got The Flash and Transformers Rise of the Beasts. I mean, as bad as those are, it's still not this. Like, you know, you've at least got, you at least get Michael Keaton in The Flash. You know what I mean? You get like Michael Keaton and you get, a Batfleck. You get something that it's like, that was nice. It didn't change my opinion on the movie, but it was at least nice to see. Like, my problem with this movie is with Borderlands is like, I don't like objectifying actors based on how they look because, like, to a degree of whether or not it helps a movie or breaks a movie, because it sets a bad precedent. It clings on to bad stereotypes and issues that are prevalent in Hollywood, and it's a truly horrible thing. But the only positive thing I can say about Borderlands is I got to look at Gina Gershon. That's it.
I'm going to spoil my score. The only reason why I'm giving it 2 points is because breasts were out everywhere. That's the only thing that kept me somewhat entertained. That was it. There was a lot of cleavage. There was hella cleavage. That might be the only thing good about this. There was attractive people and there was cleavage. That's it. That's it. That's all I got for you, brother. That's all I got for you.
I can't
That's
really
all I
hate on
got.
that, Jastin, because that's all this movie had to offer. And like,
I hate
and
to be, and I'm not even trying to be shallow. I'm like being real as hell right now. That's it.
it
That
just
was
had
it.
it had that one element that at least like touched the lizard part of your brain. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. But yeah, it's just one of the worst things I've watched in so long. And I watched Tarot twice. And I would watch it a third time before watching this again. There's not a single movie we just listed or that in that list that I would not watch again instead of watching this. I mean, I watched Pooh, Blood, and Honey twice because I got to see it on its initial screening as like an exclusive showing thing, and I watched it again. I mean, fuck this movie. Recommendations and scores?
Yeah.
Yep.
Recommendations and score.
Heather, go.
No. I can't even explain why. It's just no, because there's nothing good in it. Like it's not interesting or entertaining in any sort of way. The storyline is not engaging enough. The acting is not good and disappointing because you know that these people have talent. So it's a waste of time. It's just an unnecessary movie in general. It's just unnecessary. So yeah, I cannot in good conscience recommend this movie to anybody. Even if some of these people are your favorite actors, it's a no, because then you'll just be disappointed and sad about it. I'm just straight up going with a zero exploding stuffed animals out of 100.
Jastin, what about you?
No points.
I mean, maybe if I like was more attracted to like seeing women's breasts, maybe I would get your score. And that's totally fair. To me, that didn't really register with me. So
True.
I understand why yours might be a little higher just for that.
Yeah, that wouldn't have. I understand that not moving the needle for you, the proverbial needle. I wasn't trying to say something else there.
Say less. Say less.
Yes. Say less. Man, ain't nobody gonna recommend this. Why? For what? There's action movies out that you can see. There's comedies out that you can see that are better than this. Just there is everything you could see. There's everything that you can see that is probably better than this. And I wish, and I'm not even exaggerating when I say that. Like, it's interesting that you said that the movie thought it was so cool. This would be like if the 2018 Suicide Squad, it would be like the David Ayer, that was the director, right? It would be like if the David Ayer Suicide thought it was James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. That's kind of what it is. It thinks it's that one, but you are just so not. And in a lot of ways, that's what this is. It's just a really awful Suicide Squad ripoff. I mean, that's kind of what it is. You got a motley crew of characters and they're going on this adventure and there's a thing we have to get. And, you know, it's just, So you got your MacGuffin, and it's just everything you've seen before, but some better talent, but everything is worse. The acting is worse. The story is worse. The directing is worse. And ultimately, the experience is worse. And honestly, like I said, and typically I'm not the one to be that shallow, but I found myself being distracted by the cleavage of some of the women's outfits in this, because the movie gave me absolutely nothing else to focus on or be intrigued about or wonder about or be compelled by. So that's why the score that this is going to get is 2 points. So that's what it's going to get. Just big 2. Big 2. I'm not even going to justify with anything. Just 2 out of 100.
I told the truth, guys. I'm going to give this a positive score. I give this 1 Gina Gershon out of 100. And it is a positive score because it's a positive number.
Got it. I mean, I didn't expect somebody to not go negative on this movie, to be fair. So
I'm trying to keep with my 2024 resolution of not going ridiculous with my scores.
This really pushed it, though, didn't it?
Honestly, if Gina Gershon wasn't in this movie, I probably would have said -8.
Man, you last year would have probably given this a -10,000.
Oh, dude, this would have been like a negative infinity. But I'm trying to be more realistic with my scores this year. And, I guess, Gina Gershon being on screen for a combined total of like 24 seconds, that
She looked great. I get it.
I mean, I can't say, I have to give credit where credit's due. There's at least a Gina Gershon in this movie. Outside, this movie literally offers nothing else. Just give me a 24-second commercial of Gina Gershon in this movie, and I would have given it 100. I'd be like 10 out of 10. Perfect. But it decided to water it down with the rest of this movie. It decided to go, no, Sterling, there's an hour and 50 minutes of other shit. Just none of it was worth it. Just none of it. So, fuck that. Cinescore's a 1. It is the worst of the Cinescores outside of when I've gone like my negative ridiculous numbers. What was it, like the Nun 2 when I gave it like a -666, so like, or a 6,000 is like a negative whatever, and it ended up being a -2,342 or some bullshit. Like, I think I've done that on the Nun 2, and I think I did it on Pray for the Devil. I think both of those movies I just went absurdly low. But yeah, in the Cinescore era of 2024, this is the hands down worst movie. Spoilers?
Yeah.
Yep.
Why did Cate Blanchett get god powers and then somehow the bad guy was killed by a squid in a vault? What the fuck was that? Where the fuck did that come from? Out of all the bullshit in this movie, I was just like, it's the end of the movie and she gets god powers. Like, she turns into Jean Grey's Phoenix. And I was like, okay, maybe we'll at least get something with that. And then just the end of the movie is just her moving around really fast, doing that like blink move bullshit. And just a squid tentacle fuck thing kills the bad guy. Where the fuck did this tentacle monster come from? What in movie fucking hell was the fucking, what was that? Is that something from the game? Anybody that's ever played this game and just knows, because apparently this is really heavily based on Borderlands 2. Is that how you beat the final boss? You just go into a vault and a squid does it for you? Just what the fuck was this? It's just the most anticlimactic shit. And I love how you put it, Jastin. It's like every cliche ever, but it just does it worse than all the other cliches done. Like, do you remember when Kate Blanchett did a Captain Marvel impression when she fought a spaceship? And remember how it just was not as cool as it was in Captain Marvel?
Yep.
Yeah. It's absurd. This movie's just, and it starts, why did Kate Blanchett sound like she was reading lines off cue cards for the entire movie? She never once felt like she was acting. She felt like she was reading words. And I don't know, I've never had a problem with Kate Blanchett's voice. But the opening narration of this movie would make me want to nominate her for actor that should never do an audiobook. Because her reading lines in just her voice told me from literally the first second and a half of this movie, we're fucked. When you have Kate Blanchett, one of our generation's arguably best talents when it comes to acting. And the first time I hear her voice in this movie and I go, oh, she is not trying whatsoever. And I don't care what she says. I don't care what anybody says. The proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the proverbial filmed pudding. No, she wasn't trying. And I agree with you, Heather. Kevin Hart was probably the best acting performance in this movie. And all it was him acting like a normal person and not a comedian. That's the only thing he did. He didn't even really act. He just acted like a person instead of his typical over the top, stuff, which is sometimes fine and sometimes it makes me want to die. He was just normal. He just felt kind of like a soldier, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That little girl, I don't know, made me hate kids. And she was in fucking Barbie. She's the daughter from fucking Barbie.
She was so good in that too.
Yeah, she was so good in that. What the heck?
And this is what we get. You remember in Avengers Endgame when Gamora dies?
Yeah.
This actress played baby Gamora in that movie. She made me wish baby Gamora died. And then we had baby Drago. We had Drago Jr. from Creed 2 in this movie. And you wasted him. Did they? I don't know. He just yelled shit and hit shit, which I guess he did a good job at that. He yelled and hit shit, but the man's not a terrible actor. There was some fantastic acting in fucking Creed 2, dude. When he's at the end, he's like, "Nah, Dad, this is your fight, not mine." There was some great shit. Or no, it wasn't even that. I'm sorry. When he's like, "No, Mom left us. Don't leave." That shit that's some really good shit. I don't know, he's just yelling shit. And then, I don't know, Jamie Lee Curtis decided to put Halloween Kills into acting form and just put it in this movie. And I'm sorry. And then King of the video game movie, Jack Black. I mean, he's in like 97 video game movies at this point. I mean, he's in the Jumanji movies, which, you can argue that's a video game movie, whatever. He was in, Mario. He was in this. He's going to be in the Minecraft movie. He's king of the video game movies. And have you ever hated Jack Black more in your life?
It made me sad. I never wanted to live in a world where I would hate Jack Black. But here we are.
I mean, Jack Black his character was just rambling, was just a rambling, incoherent nonsense of a thing, but also just none of the lines he had was like charismatic Jack Black shit. I mean, you take this man who is just charismatic and funny and energetic, and you go, hey, just talk a lot, but make sure you don't say anything charming or funny. What was that scene of it? Like 2 minutes of the robot shitting bullets. What the fuck was that scene?
Man, I was just sitting there going, is this supposed to be funny? That was one of those things I was talking about. Like there needed to be the laugh indicator, because I was just sitting there going, is this really supposed to be funny? It was quiet in the theater too. It was quiet as fuck, dog, for that part. It was hella quiet. I was like, this is supposed to be a comedy bit. What is happening? And every time they tried to do something funny with that robot, and it was just failure after failure after failure after failure. It was just so bad, man. Every time they did something with that robot, every time he tried to say something funny, it just never worked. Not one time. It was impressively bad. Like how many comedy bits they wrote for that robot, and none of them worked.
I'd argue, Jastin, they wrote no comedy bits for that robot. I mean, this movie is just a Technicolor pile of shit. I mean, it's like if you fed a dog nothing but Legos and laxatives and just shat it out. Just a bunch of brightly colored bricks glued together with shit. I mean, I have said this so many times. Because, like, there are people, I've read some of the reviews of, like, because this movie has an audience score of 51%. And I refuse to believe that half the people that watch this movie liked it. I refuse to believe anybody actually did. But, like, there's so many people that are like, oh, man, this is exactly what I wanted from, like, this game and all this other stuff. And once again, I implore to fans, want better. Act like you deserve better. I don't care if you do deserve better or not, but act like you do. Just because you've wanted something for so long. This movie has technically been in the works since 2011 in some way, shape, or form. I know you've wanted this. It's been 13 years. And you're finally getting what you've been wanting for so long. And you have a cast that should have at least given you a movie. At the bare minimum, a movie. And they give you this instead. I know you're a fan of the property, and I know this is what you've been wanting. But you still don't deserve this. You don't have to accept this as okay. You can say what it is. Bullshit. And that you deserve better. And maybe, just maybe, Hollywood will eventually fuck it up a little less at some point. They don't have the best track record with video game movies, so it might be a long time till they like I said, they just fuck it up a little less. I mean, that was one of my biggest problems with the Mario movie. It was just a mess of bullshit. You know, they were just like, hey, we're going to put some Smash Brothers shit. We're going to put some Mario Kart shit. We're going to do all this shit just because it's a Mario movie. And that's what everybody thinks. We're just going to put a bunch of Mario shit in this. I mean, fuck, it was at least, you could argue, cohesive, coherent. How they got to the Smash Brothers part. At least there was like a sequitur like thing, a linear path. Like it went event A to event B to Smash Brothers. Then it went event C to D to Mario Kart. It at least had a path. This was just shit happening on screen. And I argued that there's not even a path. Like, they're all like, guys, we need to hide out. We need to hide out in this tower so they won't find us. All of a sudden, the robot's just rolling around on the street. Just rolling around on the street.
Yeah, why? Why? I thought we were hiding. I said the same thing, man. Jeez.
And he just goes up there and goes, my bad, guys. And then all the army people are like, all right, guys, we need to find these people. Nobody goes in or out. Oh, hey, look at that box that could easily hide 8 people in it. No one looking there. Let them on by. Okay. Okay, I guess. Like, okay. I just, like, it's at a certain point in this movie, you just feel defeated. You were just resigned to the fact that you have a ticket and this movie doesn't give a fuck about you. And you don't give a fuck about it. It's like when you're on a really bad date, but you at least like the restaurant. But even then, the restaurant's not on its A game that night. It's like, if you're like, well, I'm on this date, and I've made no, like, I love Chili's Southwest egg rolls. So, I mean, I could go to Chili's for a date, and it's just a horrible date. And even the Southwest egg rolls are just like a little cold that night. Like, they're not even like fresh. They're just like kind of stale and cold. You're just like, oh, man. Like, I went to this movie at 10:30 in the morning. So I didn't even get popcorn. I was like, nah, I'll get popcorn later because I was seeing another movie that day. So I was like, nah, it's like 10:30 in the morning. I'll get my popcorn later. So even going to the theater wasn't as fun because I was just sitting there with a drink in this shitty movie. And I'm like, man, I don't even have any delicious buttery popcorn to eat. I just have this shit. This is it. It's fucking terrible. Oh, fuck me. Heather, go.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where, like, I think we talked about this recently. It was with Tarot, where it's like, because it's so bad, you can only see and pick out the bad things in it. And that's this movie even more so. Like, I think that, and something that really bugged me too was it really was the fact that Cate Blanchett's character, Lilith, she's supposed to be this like, it felt like she was supposed to be this like rebel, like, I don't care about anything, I'm just doing my job type of person. But again, the very stereotypical troped version of that is what she was. Like, she didn't have any sort of her own personality. It was like, it just was, it was straight. And maybe that is something that I'm overlooking, but because it feels straight from like a written video game character. That's all she did. But when you're making it into a movie format, you got to have some kind of personality with it, especially if you're Cate Blanchett. like if there was anybody that could have maybe made that character feel like somebody you should care about, it should have been her. Like, that's just the saddest thing of all. And like her dynamic with the girl whose name I'm forgetting at the moment, it was
Terrorizing Teresa.
Close enough. Yes. It was very much a dynamic that it's supposed to be like, we grew to love each other and like, you're going to love our dynamic along the way. And you don't, because I actually found that girl's character very annoying, very annoying. And even in the scenes when they're working together or whatever it is, like particularly the scene at the end when, dude gets, locked in that little space or whatever by them, he's got her, he's got the little girl, and then, Lilith saves her. And then she comes just directly over and does like this like stance with her. Like, yeah, we're cool, bad guy. It was so cringe. It was awful because, it's like the girl standing there in a pose and Lilith's got her arm around her and she's like, we got you, bad guy, essentially is what that scene was. Gotcha. And then like, it's like, what this movie doesn't warrant that type of moment at all. Like, you shouldn't even try to do that moment anyway, but certainly not with the rest of what this movie was. It was crazy to see that happening. It was crazy. I was like, why are we doing this? Like, what's going on right now? And then like, also, because I know I talked about the dialogue is very bad, but I don't know if anybody else noticed at the very, very end of the movie when they're all like enjoying the show or the fireworks or whatever it is. And Jamie Lee Curtis comes up to the little girl and she's like, here, I made you some tea because I thought you might be dehydrated. Like, it was just like, I feel like, why did we need you to emphasize that specific line of dialogue? Like, it felt like they emphasized it so much and focused in on it like that was going to be something important or that it was about to lead to something else important. Did anybody else notice that? Because I was like, okay, what? Like, you could have just been like, here you go, here's your tea. End of it. But it was like nobody else was talking. They focused in on just Jamie Lee Curtis and the little girl in that scene for her to say that. And then the little girl doesn't even, maybe she says thanks. I don't know. She might not have said anything. She just drinks it and that's it. And then they move on to like a normal scene with everybody. I'm like, what was that? It was just super weird. Like, why are they emphasizing that?
It has to be something from the game, right? Like, tea has to be something in the game, right? Like, it has to be. This is the only reason why you would have that dialogue like that. That is so stilted and disjointed and just nonsensical and unnecessary. It has to be game related. It has to be, right? Like, you wouldn't just write that, right? That's not a line a person writes, right?
You would think, like, that's why I'm like, if all of this is directly like lifted from the game and nothing extra was added, I would possibly forgive a little bit of it. But I'm like, but no, you're having a chance, even if that was the case, to make this a movie where people care more. So do different dialogue. If this was directly just written from whoever wrote this, like, it's even worse. Like, that's the dialogue you came up with from something where dialogue was already not good. in a game, apparently. Like, it was so weird. It was very, very weird. It just was, yeah, kind of like what you said. Like, it was a disjointed moment of like, okay, like, lots of other things just happened, and we're focusing in on this one line of here. I got you tea because I thought you might be dehydrated. Like, why? I don't know. But it's the same character that did that stupid line you talked about, Sterling, of like, you know what? I remember now. I was supposed to keep you away from here. Like, what? Because also, like, her character, as far as I know, unless I'm misremembering, her character didn't have a lack of memory. Her character was just, she was very like socially awkward, or socially just didn't know how to socially talk to people correctly, because they just emphasized the fact that she, you know, was like, oh, she'll be very blunt with you, or she'll say things to you that you might not like, or whatever. That was what they said her character trait was. They didn't say anything about the fact that she's very forgetful and lost her memory. Like, unless I'm not remembering that part of the movie. But I'm like, that then, like, why is that randomly a moment? We're like, I remember now. Like, the whole reason why you weren't supposed to be here. Suddenly, after this mission is over and you're already here and it's too late. It was strange. I just didn't understand it. But yeah, I feel like, and in that moment, like when at the very beginning scene with the little girl, when Roland goes in to get her and, you know, he's like, yeah, you know, I gotta, you know, your father sent me and all this stuff. And she's like, okay. Like, just this cheerful little girl in the middle of like this guy risking his life to get her out of there. And I'm like, this isn't cute though. This isn't charming or quirky or cute. This is weird. Like, we haven't earned this from you because this is your first line of dialogue. Like, what are we doing here? I didn't understand any of the choices they made in this movie with the dialogue or the actions. Like, and then like whenever she becomes like, I guess a god or whatever she became, when Lilith did, like, she gained these powers to protect everybody else. But yeah, like, she just very easily got destroyed herself. You know, it's like she could protect everybody else, but suddenly like she is knocked down so very quickly. I don't know. And maybe that's the thing. Like, maybe it's like she could protect others, but not necessarily herself, or her powers were maybe being dispersed out by too many people, or to too many people. And so she was weaker. I don't know. But I was just like, we built this thing up, and then it was just an easy like takedown of your power going away. You know, I don't know. It didn't feel like anything they did here was earned. Like, they just, like you said, they just did a bunch of things. A bunch of things on a screen were happening, and they were trying to make it a funny movie, like a funny misfit adventure movie leading to the end goal. And like, this ain't no Guardians of the Galaxy. You know what I mean? Like, that was actually funny. That was actually a fun watch. That was like, the story was coherent. You understood what was happening. And here you're just like, they made a movie that it didn't feel like it came from somebody's like passion for the game. It didn't really feel like it came from anybody's passion of like, we need to just make sure people understand the story of this game better. It was like, why was it needed? I don't understand why this movie was needed at all if you're going to make it this bad. Like, I'm just saying. And if we want to talk about unnecessary things, Claptrap is the most unnecessary character to ever exist, on top of being the most annoying character that's ever existed. Like, I'm so sad because I genuinely didn't realize before the movie that it was Jack Black. And I was like, what? No, my soul is less now because of knowing that information. But like, there were moments when I guess technically he did somewhat helpful things, But I feel like if you take him out of this movie, nothing really changes about the movie. Nothing changes about their journey. Like, even though he was the distraction to get them through that group of people, they would have found something else. There could have been another thing that they did with that, because that was the only real moment where you feel like, oh, it had to be him. But in any other sense, I don't think he served a real purpose other than to supposed to be that like funny, sidekick character. And he was not. Like, nothing, not a single line of dialogue that he said was funny to me. And I'm like, I don't think that it's that hard to make me laugh either sometimes. But this it didn't work, And I'm really confused by, there was some people sitting maybe a few seats down from me, and they just thought everything he said was funny. Maybe not everything, but like there were some chuckles, a lot of chuckles from it. And I'm like, no, don't give it the satisfaction, because it's not funny, and it's not funny. You probably are just fans of the game and you want it to be funny. You just want that to be what this is, and it's not. I don't know, like, and it's like, I don't want to, take away anybody's right to make a sort of art form that they're just like, yeah, I wanted to make this and I love it and it was great. But it just didn't feel like anybody was doing it for that reason. It's like Cate Blanchett, like if she had been like, you know what, I'm such a fan of these games, really, really want to see, I really want to be in this movie. Like that would be a shocking thing to know that she said that because of the way she performed this movie. It felt more like, you know what, I got some free time, could use the extra money. Sure, let's just knock this out in a few days' time or whatever. Like, because even her action scenes where they focus in on these shots of her with her gun and she's like leaping and doing the shooting while she's leaping, and she's doing these things that they think are really cool shots of her, really good action moments. When I'm like, we've seen that so many times, and it's in a much better setup and environment than this. Like, this is not anything, and you really thought you had something with it. It's the saddest part about it. And like everything she said, even from the beginning with her lines of dialogue in the bar of, like, just like she's too cool for anything. And then she's like, you couldn't pay me any amount of money to go back there. Oh, yes, you can. Like, that's supposed to be funny. But I'm like, no, like nothing about this worked. Like, I didn't get, nothing landed. And that's why, again, Kevin Hart was the best thing about this movie, because he felt like a real person that had like real reactions to things that would be happening. Like, in no world would this little girl just be like, let me just skip along and just, cause chaos and be a rebellious little girl because I can, in the middle of people trying to save my life. Like, she just wasn't acting like an actual person. Nobody was acting like a real person except for Kevin Hart's character. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm sorry for the disrespect, Kevin Hart. Like, you actually, you can act. You have another speed. Like, I thought you had one speed and one thing you did, which was the over the top, like, silly comedy. But he has another level. He has another speed. And again, not that he was even doing an insanely, like, Oscar worthy type of thing, but being normal, like you said, Sterling, like, he was just being normal. And that was enough to make it feel like some acting was being done in this movie specifically. So I don't know. This movie's confusing in all kinds of ways as far as how you feel about the people in it. Like, it's insane. But, and when you mentioned earlier too about Jack Black being in all these video game movies, Jack Black was the best thing about the Jumanji movies. Jack Black was the best thing about the Mario movie, but he's somehow just the absolute worst thing you can think of in this one. It just makes me sad because he was on a roll there with that kind of thing. And yeah, he's usually such a funny, charming person, and he just wasn't. And I also hated every time that they mentioned the thing about vault hunters. Like, I'm sure that that's a big thing in the games, but I'm like, okay, we get it. Let's chill. Whatever. Like the guy that was giving her the ride and he kept saying, sure, you're not a vault hunter, and like taunting her or whatever he was doing. Why? And then you see him again at wherever place they were at, and he's like, I told you were. And she's like, no, I'm not. It was just, okay, I don't care anything about this interaction. I don't understand why this isn't interaction at all. It was just like a whole like thing that they wanted to be a thing. They were trying to make fetch happen and it just didn't work. It was crazy. I don't understand. Like everything, every choice they made just was more confusing. And it's just the biggest disappointment because it's like, I can't even say with this one, like, oh, I see the potential of what they were trying to do. Sadly, like, I don't see the potential of what they were trying to do here because nothing warranted me to feel like, yeah, this could have been better. Like, it's one of those where I would rather it just not have been a movie that happened because it just didn't add any sort of entertainment value to anything. So, yeah.
Jastin. Oh, Jastin.
Oh. Where to even begin with this just amazing failure of a movie? Like, just talking about all the cliches and things you've seen before. I mean, just everything down to you've got this great bounty hunter, just awesome skilled person, and then you have this evil person going, I'm going to need you to do this, and giving her the ultimatum, and you got to do it in this amount of time, and it's got to be you. It can be nobody else, even though I could send 1 million people to do this. It's got to be you and nobody else because you know Pandora.
I mean, what are you talking about, Jastin? Are you saying it's an exact ripoff of Escape from New York and Escape from LA?
Exactly. Like, it's just, I mean, it was just so typical. And like, when you get to the end of it, and it's like, oh, the robot, the whole purpose of this was for this robot to wake up when you got and go to you whenever you came back to Pandora. How the fuck does the robot know when you arrived, when you came back, where the fuck you were? How does a robot know any of this shit?
I mean, it was real convenient that on an entire planet, she landed right next to that fucking thing for it to activate.
I know, but it just landed right next to it and it went boop, boop, boop. So, I mean, how did it know to be there? How did it know to do all of that? And why didn't it know what it was supposed to be doing? Like, why did we need to go all the way to the end, go to that home and scan this Phoenix thing for this video to play? Why wouldn't that have been the first thing that played? Why wouldn't that have just been part of the programming? Like that there's no way that you would have built this advanced machine and it not be able to tell her that.
I just like
from
the
Jump
idea.
Street.
I just like the idea that the mom's like, all right, I programmed this thing to give her the perfect message so she'd know. Oh man, what if she's gone for a really long time and didn't want to come back and she's really reluctant? She might not buy this. So I guess let me have it wait. I'm going to program it to not know why or anything like that, just so it can wait, so it can ease her into being the prophetic messiah of this story. Yeah, that's what I'll do, because that's exactly how this should have been handled. And go.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, that was just so dumb. So the whole claptrap thing is really dumb. And he was dumb the whole time. Then when you get to the end, it's just laughably dumb how he was supposed to be important. And you're like, what? This was the mother's plan? Like, this was the best that we could do. And then you had another character taking care of her, and that character had to conveniently forget all of this so that we could not know and it be revealed at the end. And if you didn't know, as many times as they kept saying, oh, the mom, the mom is gone and my mom was away and my mom was, and what is with this? Madam Web did this too. What is this? I resent my parent and then come to find out, oh, my parent really loves me. And there was this awesome thing I didn't know about it. And it means my parent loves me. What is with this shit? Can we stop doing it? Can we please stop doing it?
And it's always oh man, these things that happened when I was a kid, I'm going to remember them again later when the plot decides so. And then everything will be okay. Like, she just remembers all of a sudden that her mom wasn't crazy and wasn't vault hunting at all. Like, that's the funny thing is about it. The whole movie, she's like, my mom was a crazy vault hunter. Crazy vault hunter. All she cared about was vault hunting. And then any flashback you saw with the mom, none of that whatsoever. You would just did not line up at all. She just kind of seemed like a mom that cared about her daughter. And like, they got attacked. It wasn't even like she went somewhere and just never came back. No. They got attacked.
Yeah.
And she's like, my mom cared about the vault and not me. I remember that day we got attacked and she went, daughter, go save your life so I can go find the vault while we get attacked. Like, that's not what happened. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, that wasn't even what happened when they showed it. Like, so how did you even draw that conclusion? And oh, that's right. You drew it because the script said you had to draw the conclusion until we got to the end so we can misdirect. And talk about a failure of a misdirect. I mean, how did you not know the whole time that she was going to come back and she was going to be the one? How was it that not just abundantly clear with everything they kept saying, everything they kept doing in the plot? That little girl kept going, oh, I'm special. And you just knew when she stepped onto that relic, wasn't shit going to happen. You just knew.
Dude, it was just one of those things that's like, have you ever seen a movie?
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
you have?
And they tried these red herrings and, like Jamie Lee Curtis going, oh man, if once you do it, you could die. And once it activates, then that person dies and the prophecy and all this stuff. Who came up with this? Who came up with who is the prophecy person that came up with this shit? It's just, what? And why and if Cate Blanchett, if that character Lilith knows that she's the person, how come at the beginning she's narrating as if this has already happened, but she goes, well, you must be lucky. We can't all be the God, whatever thing or whatever she said. She was like, we can't all be the princess, whatever. Almost like she was kind of jealous of the girl or whatever. Like, some of us have to make a living the other way. And then at the end, it's her. It just felt like, so if this has already happened and you're narrating as if it's already happened, why would you even say it like that? Like, why would you say it in a way where it's like, oh, the spoiled brat, she's the princess, so everybody's got to take care of her. Why would you say it like that when you know at the end it's you? Why would you say it like that? I don't understand why the narration came off that way. And I mean, you could say, oh, well, maybe she was speaking but didn't know that yet. But no, because nothing had happened yet. She didn't even know that she was supposed to be going to do the thing when the narration started. And she was already acting like she knew. So that narration had to have taken place before anything, but after everything. Because when she's narrating, she doesn't know she's going on this quest yet. So why would she talk like that? She wouldn't even say that. If she's reflecting on this whole adventure, she wouldn't say it like that because she is the one who is the prophecy daughter. So that was dumb too. Like it only existed. She only said that because we were trying to misdirect. That's it. Because the script didn't want us to know. But the character should have known. You're reflecting on the whole story and telling us, you're narrating, you know already. So you wouldn't even say it like that.
I really loved how the whole plot of what was her name? Tremendous Trini or whatever. When they were like, oh yeah, they found a shard of a key and it had some blood on it. So they cloned me from that blood. And therefore that's how they know I'm special. And I'm like, so on a planet where people are constantly hunting for this shit and fighting and killing people and all this shit, like half of your population of beings on your planet are called psychos. And they just went, nope, the only thing that could possibly be is the blood of an ancient race. And can't just be Steve's blood. When he got shot last week whilst holding this thing. And why? Jastin, Heather, do you remember that fantastic 90s movie with Billy Zane called The Phantom? When you got two of the skulls, it showed you the location of the third skull.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'll watch The Phantom any day, every day. But why the fuck are you ripping that movie off with your keys? Come on. Like, I love that movie. And I'm still going, did you guys really rip off The Phantom? Like, of all the movies in cinema history that you could have ripped off, you went, I need to go for Billy Zane's The Phantom. Yep, that'll do it. Like, why were they acting like it was a red herring when it showed her find that second or that one key? Was that the first key? I don't know, whatever fucking key that was. When she just walked up to all the boxes and just goes, here. It's like in the, like in really old video games when it's like that point and click shit. And the way that you like navigated that shit is when it would be the one thing that was rendered differently than everything else. Like you'd have a room of crates and they'd all be like brown tone 1. And there's that one that's like brown tone 3.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got to click on that. Yeah.
Why did they treat that shit like that? Like she just walked around and went, here. Got it. And like what in prophecy hell, like you were saying, Jastin, like why does all the prophecies why does it always be like they die but they don't? Like why is that every prophecy ever, when a person is the key to something, they die to get it, but they never do?
Yeah. Ever. Like ever. So all that was dumb. And then more dumb lines. Yeah. Whenever we realize that, that Lilith is the one who's actually the chosen daughter and everything. And when the other girl, what is her name? Tiny Tina or Terrific Teen or whatever her name is. Terrific Teen. She goes, I thought I was special. And she's all sad. And then And then Kate Blanchett goes, "You are special, just in a different way." And didn't explain shit of
What
how
in the
she was special
after-school
at all.
special
She
was
just
that
said,
shit?
"You are just different." And that was it. She didn't say shit after that because there was nothing to say.
Why is she talking like a fucking high school guidance counselor in a 1990s Hallmark movie? You're special in your own way. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then that was it. She had nothing more to add. I will not elaborate because we didn't want to spend that much time writing anything.
But also Tiny Tina, like over here being like, "Yeah, sorry, baby girl," like saying things that you're like, "Get out of here. What are you doing? What are your lines?" Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. And why was she trying to be like the crazy cool? It was like the worst Harley Quinn impression at times. How she would, I'm trapped or I can't escape or whatever. And then, here's a doll bomb. I just had hell of them. Never was carrying them. Where were they? Where were they when they were traveling? I don't know. She just had them when she needed them. So that was that. But how many times were you just watching her going, what in the Harley Quinn impression is this?
That's all it was. Like, dude, that one scene where she's like, "I've got a gun," and then she's like, "Mine's bigger," and she just pulls a bazooka out like it's a fucking Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, why was she acting like Eddie when he goes to Toontown in Roger Rabbit? Like, he just can pull out a toon gun all of a sudden. Like, what was that shit? Like, it's just like, and I get it. Like, it's supposed to be a video game and all this other stuff, but like, they didn't even do any cool video game-esque things. And like, in so much of this movie, you could tell went through like development or reshoot hell. Because what was that scene when Kevin Hart comes down on like the rope, when he like rappels down the rope at the end of the movie to like show back up? Like, why did he look like he was shot that scene for another movie and they just spliced it in because it didn't match anything around it? But two, why was he just standing up there on this like crane or whatever the fuck he was standing on and just watching his friends get ambushed and walk into a trap just so he can rappel down? He watched the bad guys set up their trap, camouflage themselves, watched his friends walk into it, and then went, "Okay, now I need to go.
Now it's time for me to show myself." How did he survive? I mean, those psychos jumped all on him and everything, and they just jumped on him. And and then it implies that he used a bomb, but what bomb? He didn't have one. The one that she gave him, he used. So what was happening? I mean, I didn't understand. They all just jumped on him, and he was like, Then the next thing I know, they were dead, and he wasn't. What happened to them? It didn't explain it at all. He just was alive, and they were dead. But I didn't get an explanation at all. He just got up.
And like, what was that line too when he gets up? He's like, "This is my least favorite kind of orgy." Were you fucking their corpses? What were you doing off camera?
Yeah, what was happening? And he said that, and I went, "What? What? Who wrote this?" I was so angry. I wanted to put the writer on my knee and spank them. Like, it was just like bad. Like, why would you do this? One of the funny things is
this movie had about 10 different writers, most of them not even credited because they contributed so little to the end of the movie. But one of the writers was also the showrunner for The Last of Us. And he saw this movie and went, oh no, this is terrible, and petitioned for them to remove his name as the writer of this movie because he wanted no affiliation with what this movie was.
Wow.
Like, that's how bad it ended up being. Also, what was that shit when he's like, leave, I'll meet you at the vault? How the fuck did he know where the vault was? They didn't even know where the vault was in that scene. They had to like do that whole like key map Skulls of Tuganda thing to fucking find out where the vault was. And how did he know where it was? To go set up his rappelling rig.
And if the main henchman could just teleport, I mean, he could teleport. He could teleport, Sterling. I mean, he couldn't find this little girl. He could teleport. I mean, it would just be, he could have just zipped there and got her and left. I mean, once he knew halfway through the movie where they were.
Dude, he knew that anyway. Because like, it was like a beacon the whole time, which like, of course it was. Like, this movie is the worst like ripoff of Escape from LA. Like, I know a lot of people hate Escape from LA. I still love it because it's Snake Plissken. It's whatever. But like, every single thing, the double cross of like, oh, that's actually a tracker. Oh, that wasn't actually, like, every like of those weird villainous corporation double crosses. They just did that shit again.
Yep.
Like, oh, it's not a beacon, it's a tracker. Of course it is. Of course it was. At no point did anyone not think that. You also just didn't need to say it. But like, also, why did they know where the vault was? And also, like, do you remember that scene in this movie where they spent like 4 minutes arguing about whether or not there were berserkers in the sewer or not? What the fuck is a berserker? I get that might be a game thing, but you spent 4 minutes of this movie talking about it, and I don't know what the fuck it is. They spent so long about that. That's like if in the Dungeons and Dragons movie, they spent like 8 minutes talking about a beholder and you don't ever see one. Why would you do that? They didn't do that because D&D is a better made movie. But like, I would have gotten that. It would have been a nice little silly joke for me, but it also would have worked just as well as if somebody made a joke of like, oh, you're as ugly as a beholder. I would have gone, you know what I mean? It could have just been a quick little thing and over with. Like, and it still would have worked. You wouldn't have needed a discussion. They talked so long because it was like Kevin Hart and Jamie Lee Curtis. She's going, why did you bring up Beholder? Or why did you bring up Berserkers? And he's like, there's no Berserkers. They're up there. But why'd you bring them up? You brought them up. Why are there Berserkers in the sewers? He's like, there's not Berserkers in the sewers. They're up north. Like, they spent so long talking about that. I don't know what the fuck one of those is. Was that Viking looking motherfucker at the end? Was he a berserker? I don't know. I also don't know what the fuck that was. All of a sudden there's a Viking fuck thing at the end of this movie. Where the fuck did it come from? You didn't even see a picture of that throughout this movie. All of a sudden there's a Viking. Why in the like cast off fucking villains from 1980s Masters of the Universe was that fucking thing? He looked like Dolph Lundgren as He-Man needed to fight it.
And why does this thing give you powers? What's the point of having these Phoenix-like power? What are you supposed to do with them?
She made everybody invincible for a little bit. But like, why couldn't she just do that again? Like, why couldn't she have just made, you know, Trisky Pterodactyl like fucking invincible? And once again, why the fuck is there a squid in the vault? It's like, they're like, oh, this is a vault of ultimate power and all this other shit. Like you could do. It's just a bunch of floating fucking cubes in Nessie. That's all this fucking vault was.
Yeah.
And they didn't even take anything out of it. They just walked away.
What did they take? That's what I don't understand. Like, okay, you got powers. Why? What are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to guard the vote? Is that what it is? You guard it for you? You're supposed to protect Pandora, be Pandora's protector. What is the point of having powers? Why do you have them? Why are they given to you? Why? Why is there a prophecy? Why would somebody write this? There has to be a point to it, guys. There needs to be a point to it.
Can we just
if you
stop
have
with prophecies?
powers, what are they for?
Can we just stop with prophecies in movies, like in games and all this shit? Can we just stop with all that?
I know.
Like,
I
they're
know.
all the same.
Enough is enough.
They're all the same. There's a chosen one. It's not the chosen one you think it is, but there's a chosen one. It is the one you think it is in the end, but it's not. Like, okay.
And they're going to die, but they don't. And now they have powers. But what are they for? What is the point of this treasure and these powers? Why do these things exist? What do they exist for? You know, why? What were the ancestors doing before this? What were they doing to have? Why would you need this? Why would you need to be a phoenix thing flying around doing shit? And
Also,
they just didn't explain any of this.
Why is every civilization that's like an old civilization the most powerful fuckers ever, but they're always dead? They're always gone. Why the fuck do you have these genius beings that could create shit that could power and heal and, you know, save everything, but they're always dead?
Yeah. What happened?
Why are they always just gone?
I mean, and all we know is, all Lilith told us is that it's a shithole. Okay, well, yeah, that sounds like that's such a cool line for a cool chick. Yeah, it's a shithole. I don't like my home. But what does that explain? Was it not a shithole before? Was the all-powerful Phoenix person your ancestor? Was it not a shithole before and something happened? Give me something, guys. How could you not think beyond just, we need her to have powers for this part in the story? That's it. That's all it was. We just need her to have some powers. And it looked like shit. Those wings, and they were coming and going and somewhat flapping and firing. It just looked bad, guys. She didn't look awesome. It wasn't like when she finally got the powers, you're like, oh man, this is some sick shit. I was just sitting there going, that's what it looks like. It didn't even so much as burn her leather jacket or whatever the fuck she had on. I mean, it just wasn't even powerful enough to harm her clothes.
It burns the leather jacket, but it keeps her spandex shirt.
Like, I was just amazed at this. I mean, it was just amazing how little effort was given to this.
I mean, and I've been trying to find this too while we've been talking. Like, does anybody remember what that stupid quote was that she said when she returned where Atlas was to save her team? Like, it was like her entrance quote after he said something like, I don't know if he said like any last words or he said something like that. And then she like reveals herself and she says something that's supposed to be so cool. And it just sounds so dumb. And I'm sad I don't remember what it is. But I was just like, that quote just kind of sums up the entire movie of like, you really thought you had something here and this is really bad. I'm trying to remember what she says exactly, but essentially talking about like, I'll let you live, you know, if you, I don't know, let my friends go. I'll allow you to live or something like that. I don't know. It was just really dumb. But just the way she said it was very robotic. You know what I mean? Like, it was just so like, okay, this was supposed to be a really cool moment. I see what you did here, but it just was bad.
Man, I cannot remember that line for the life of me, but I do remember rolling my eyes at it. I do remember reacting to it. I mean, I guess that happened a lot, but no, I remember it was supposed to be like this grand, the hero standing up to the villain, and it just wasn't. It just failed to accomplish anything well. And even the action sequences were just really subpar, hella cutting. Just everything was a cut, grab the gun, cut, pull, pick the gun up, cut, point the gun, cut, shoot the gun, cut, person falls, cut, I'm running, cut, I turn around, cut, here's another person, cut, I punch him, cut, we show the punch, cut. Like, it was cutting. It was just cutting like a motherfucker, man. Just cutting. Half the time, you just couldn't understand what anybody was doing. No awesome moves or sequences that I can even think of in the film. Just everything was just so bare bones, man. Everything just spoke, we are not going to really try. Everything. Just everything about it.
Yeah, I get really sad with this because I'm like, oh, did we just try more than this movie did?
I know. I think we did, and that makes me sad. But yeah, I'm done. I'm done trying with this.
So, do you guys even want to go on to Cuckoo, or do we want to save that for another one? Because this is going to be
meaty.
I'm just saying, for our listeners out there, it is 12:30 in the morning now, and we haven't even gotten to a second movie. It gets dangerous at this point. This is that make or break point.
Like, that was so draining talking about that I don't even know if I have the energy to talk about it.
I get it.
It double drained me. It was draining watching the film, but man, talking about it, man, it took a lot out of me.
Hey, I get it.
Maybe we should have done the Cuckoo first.
We should have.
Yeah, I'm fine if we do that a different day.
Yeah, same.
Womp womp. See, that's why I prefaced it just in case. I was worried about that with this movie.
Yep.
Are we
You
just going to get
already did.
rambling on about this bullshit and just talk about the bullshit and talk about all this other shit that we're just like not going to get into it? Because like it's one of those things like the second you start thinking about it, you just start remembering shit. Like you're like, oh yeah, what about this scene? What about this scene? Like, oh, you just start going. Oh, this fucking movie. So on that note, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. Check us out on the internet at www.cinemaslayers.com. We're Cinema Slayers podcast on Facebook. We're cinema_slayers on Threads, Instagram, and Letterboxd. We're Cinema Slayers pod on YouTube and TikTok. Give us a 5-star rating review. We really appreciate it. Really help us out. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your friends' family, tell your family's friends. And most of all, tell those dear sweet mothers, because dear sweet mothers love
Gina Gershon.
Fuck yeah, they do. Remember, we here, the Cinema Slayers podcast, are pro Sydney, pro naked, pro Gina. You, yes, you, Cinefans, you are Knuff. Justice for Chris. Oh, fuck, who all is it? It's Justice for Chris, Justice for Todd? Was it Todd? Justice for the those glorious stunt people. You know, and justice for us. We need to watch Borderlands. Where's our justice?
Justice for anybody who spent money on this.
Right?
That's money they can't get back, and they went to the theater and saw this.
Justice for anybody that watched this movie and didn't get popcorn.
Yeah, that too. I'm sorry, brother. I had my corn.
Dude, I fucked up, dude. I fucked up bad, man. Like, I at least could have had some delicious popcorn. Some of that hot pop. I didn't get it. Big old bucket of popped corn. Man. Fucked up bad. I really did. That's it, right? There's nothing left to say. On that note, as I always end this podcast, these TikToks and the YouTube videos. According to Jastin, Moon Knight is Best Picture winner.
That mistake I made with Moon Knight and Moonlight is still better than this movie.
Right? It's still more relevant than anything.
My error is still more relevant.
It's iconic now.
Yep.
Also, did you guys notice that that outro song's a little bit different than normal?
Is it shorter?
No.
It sounded...
I removed all the words from the middle of it.
Ah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not doing those movie quotes right in the middle of us talking.
Yeah. I was about to say easier to talk over.
Yeah.
Dig it.
I actually removed all those. It's not the best. It's still, I gotta smooth it out a little bit. There's some dips in the sound from it, but yeah, a little something. Plus, we're talking over it, so it really doesn't matter if it dips in the sound a little bit. But God, I'm gonna sleep like shit tonight, guys.
Same.
Think about this movie? Or
Actually, I know I might sleep good. I get to purge this from my fucking brain. I get to purge this from my brain, think about Gina Gershon, and go to bed. I might have good dreams. Never mind. I might actually look forward to sleep. I'm sorry for objectifying you, Gina Gershon, but you seriously were the only fucking thing in this movie that was worth a fucking damn. I just have to give you credit for just salvaging just one iota of anything in this movie. All right. I'm out.